Welcome back everyone to the Hello World Guy, and this is another episode of the Advanced Platform and Unity series. And in this video we are going to make our character more interesting by giving him a weapon. So if you remember, we do not have a weapon for our character yet, but if I go under the sprites pack, what you should be able to see is that actually not on a sprites pack, we have got it here in sprites. You can see that we have got like a astronaut a big gun, as well as astronaut arm, and also astronaut pistol. Now these are three different kinds of things we have, and we want of course have a way to allow the user to aim and use them. So currently we will implement the aiming part. So for now I'm going to go under scene view here, and I'm going to go ahead and add an empty game object here, which I'll call weapon. Just call it weapon, or call it weapon parent perhaps, but this will be the main thing that we will be transforming and rotating. And this object will contain a 2D sprite, which we can just call we can call it arm, for example. Not really arm, let's just call it for example, let's call it our gun. Let's say gun, just call it gun, nothing else. And we are going to go ahead and apply this gun to the actual image here. Now this clearly is too large, so we'll select the weapon parent, the weapon parent, not the actual gun. Or actually let's select the actual gun and go under sprite and scale it down. For the scaling we'll handle it in the gun, because different objects might require different scaling, but they won't really, because we can just set that to 1, because they won't really require different scaling, since all of them are made according to a single scale. Like the image is not like different images, they are same image. So we can just make this 0.6 for example, and we are going to reduce the y down to like here, and we are also going to move it and position it kind of where we want it to be. And of course this is where the origin is, so if I rotate, we'll rotate like that around this point. So this is basically how we want the rotation to occur here. And you can see we can rotate this up to kind of make the player position it upwards, and we can also rotate it downwards as well. We can like go ahead and make it at that as well. So yeah, that is pretty awesome. And what we want to do is we can also go ahead, for example, if I replace this with astronaut arm, you can see that we can also see that the arm here is kind of, it's not exactly right. We still need to lower it a bit, I feel, at like 3.5 for example, or 3.5. Actually let's make it 3.8. Not really, is that alright? Yes, that's alright. Let's make this 1.14, or perhaps just 1. Yes, that actually looks alright, I think. Perhaps it should be a bit higher, or you can make it lower. Of course that's up to you. You can position it wherever you want to. I'll just position it at 3.5 here, or 3.7 or 8 perhaps. So yeah, let's just position it at that. And I'm going to go back and change this to big gun for now. We can of course apply different stuff here, and we want to make a way so that when we play the game, this weapon or big gun or whatever faces our mouse, so that we can use it to kind of aim at the right direction. So you can see that if the game starts, I display my animations of course correctly, like we implemented in the previous video. However, you can see that the gun actually does not turn to face where we are going. For this we must make it a child of the sprite. If we do that, the gun should automatically turn to go where we need it to. However, you can see that the gun is actually being displayed behind the astronaut instead of being displayed in front of the astronaut. So what we'll need to do is we need to go under our gun here and make sure that its order in layer is set to 1, so that it's above the astronaut. So this will make sure that it's always drawn on top. So now we are going to finally run this, and you can see that that looks pretty much alright for most part. It does seem like you need to position it a bit differently. It's not exactly positioned correctly. I feel we should make it a little bit here on the X, and like that on the Y. That looks much better. So this is what we are going to have our gun. This is where our gun is going to be, and of course we want it to be so that when we move our mouse to a particular location, it also we can kind of aim the gun with our mouse. We want to develop that kind of functionality. So how are we gonna do that? Now what we are going to do is we are going to go ahead and go under weapon and add a new component here. And this component that we are going to add is going to be like a custom script, and we are going to call this let's just call it weapon aim system, for example. You can call it anything you want of course, and we are going to create a new script and create and add. We are going to let it reload the assemblies, and this weapon aim system, we are going to put it on quite obviously our weapon object, and let's just move it in the scripts folder, and let's go ahead and open it up. And what this is going to do is it's going to basically get according to how we are moving our mouse, it's going to basically change the rotation of its own transform to kind of allow the gun or whatever we have got to face the mouse, which will basically cause it allow our player to aim efficiently. So that is what we are going to be doing. So we are going to let it load and kind of wait for it until it actually manages to do that. And once it has, now there are two ways that we could go about this. One way is that we are going to we are going to get the mouse position, and then we are going to find out what rotation we'll need to put to make our gun face that mouse that we have got. The other option is to just lock the mouse, and depending on whether the mouse is moving up or down, we are going to change what we do. So these are two options, and we can use any of these in order to decide how we want our aiming to work. Now the option that we are going to choose is going to be that we are going to make our character turn towards wherever the mouse is. So we are going to implement it in that way. So first of all, let me just go ahead and remove the start method and also these using statements and also this comment here, and we are going to create a vector 3. Now in order to make our character look at the mouse, we want to of course know where the mouse is. So for that, we'll create a vector 3 called mouse, which will just represent where our mouse is, and we'll need that mouse in where it is in the world. So for that, we'll do camera.main, which will give us the main camera that we are using, and we'll use a function called screen to world point to convert the screen mouse position to the world mouse position. And for the screen mouse position, we'll just get input.mouse position. And now what we can do is we can go ahead and say transform.rotation. We are going to set it to a quaternion dot Euler to you get the Euler angles, and x and y are going to be 0 and 0, and for the z, because x and y are only used in 3D, the z axis for rotation is used in 2D. For this, we are going to say mathf.8and2. This is a function which if you look at this, it returns an angle whose tan is y by x. So this is basically the inverse of tan. So we first need to pass the y and then pass the x, but the reason what we are going to do is we are going to say mouse.y because it asks y first, and we are going to subtract our position y from it, and similarly for the x, and this is going to return us the 8 and 2 angle. And the reason we are doing it this way is because subtracting that position will give us it will allow us to look at that mouse position. And if I go under this 8 and 2, you can see it basically returns an angle in radians, while this expects the angle in degrees. So for that, we'll just multiply this by mathf.rad to deg in order to convert it from radians to degrees, and that is pretty much all we need to do. That should pretty much work. So this requires nothing to attach itself to, and we are going to just run this, and what you should see is that our gun does indeed turn to look towards our mouse. So we are going to go here, and you can see that wherever I go, the gun kind of follow. So you can kind of look up and you can look down, and you can pretty much do whatever you like. However, of course, we do not want the user to be able to turn the gun in any direction. We want to move it kind of like this and have some restrictions as to how much we can actually turn this. So we don't want it to turn any more than that, and you can see that means we do not want it to turn any more than like 45 degrees on like upwards, and we might want it to go up to this here, which means we can allow it to go to negative 60 degrees. So in order to set these limits, what we are going to do is we are going to take this value that we have got here, and we are going to cut this, and we are going to go here and create a float which we are going to call angle like that, and we are going to set this angle to this value that we just had. We are going to just paste this here, and that is going to give us the angle that we want. And now what we can do is we can just go ahead and instead of passing that angle directly, we'll say mathf.clamp. So mathf dot clamp, and clamp is going to basically allow us to give a value between if it's within the minimum or maximum ranges, it's going to return it directly, else it's going to kind of basically clamp it to either the minimum or the maximum. So what we are going to do is we are going to have to create two serialized fields which we'll just create like two serialized fields here. One is going to be a float called the minimum angle, so we are going to call it minimum angle, and this is by default going to be negative 60 because of course we want the minimum angle to be always negative. And for the maximum angle we are going to make it 45 degrees, and that is going to be what it is going to be by default, and you can of course change this in the inspector. Now for this clamp function we'll pass in our angle, of course, and then we'll need to pass in the minimum angle like that, and then we'll need to pass it the maximum angle as well. And that is pretty much it. That should allow us to clamp the values to our desired range. Now I'm going to go ahead and let it recompile, and of course we'll be able to edit the minimum and maximum values quite easily from here. And we're going to keep that at -60 and keep this at 45, and let's go ahead and run this and see what happens. So what you can see is that I can only move it up but to a certain limit, after which I cannot move it up, and then I can move it down, but that is also up to a certain limit. So this is, as you can see, quite clearly working. So yeah, we have got our system working here, and you can see that if I move, even if I go ahead and turn this to be negative in if I change its scale, you can see I can still, it's kind of having the gun be inverted, and we move it this way then it works, and if I move it here it does not work, because now its scale is now set to -1 as well, which means that this is essentially not working at all, because the reason is that it's still getting this correctly, because that transformation is being applied to this actual sprite, the parent here, and we can't do much about this. So if I move to the right, then it still seems like I am kind of rotating the gun on here, because it's still applying the transformation to the gun normally, and then it's applying the parent transformation on top of that. So that is the problem that we need to fix, but we'll do that in the next video, so stay tuned for that, and I'll see you in the next one. Make sure to like and subscribe as well, and share this video with other people, and bye.